villages and Chelsea, who is the manager of the supportive communities in the Department of Aging, will tell you a little bit about the Maryland grants. And then you can see that we're going to learn about different types of collaborations. And I will be introducing these people as we get to, well, actually, I think I'll go ahead and I'll introduce them all now so that then we'll be done with it. Let's see where we so Crystal is the founder of the Maryland Umbrella Group, and she has over 30 years of experience in aging services, and she also works with the city of Greenbelt on Greenbelt Cares. Leila Riazi was the founder and is the president of Cheverly Village. Trish Evans is the city of Rockville's first village coordinator. Let's see, Pazit Aviv is the Montgomery County Villages Coordinator, and she's been doing that for 10 years. And some of us joke that Pazit is so well known that she only goes by her first name sometimes, like Beyonce. Number 5 is Aram Abbasi, who is the Chief of Community Services in the Baltimore County Department of Aging. And she's held other positions with the Department of Aging, and she created a village herself in Mill City, specifically for first-generation immigrants. We have Mary Jane Atwater, who is the co-founder of Lake of the Woods, Living Independently in Our Communities, affectionately known as LowLink. And Carol Paquette, who was a founder of the Arlington Neighborhood Villages and former president of the National Village to Village Network. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what are villages. Well, they're grassroots, volunteer-driven nonprofit organizations. And they say if you've seen one village, you've seen them all. Interestingly enough, a growing number of them are intergenerational. They're really connectors. They connect us into our communities, and it's the theme of neighbors getting to know and help neighbors. And by the way, villages are part of Maryland's Longevity Ready Maryland Plan. So what do? Well, they offer a range of services that promote independence, connection, and engagement. The biggest one is transportation. It's the primary activity. It can be to medical appointments, to shopping, to social events. And this probably occupies about at least 50% of villages' activities. But they do a lot of other things as well. They have set up vaccine clinics. They have interest groups. They have educational programs. And they can do a lot of other simple services like house repairs or tech help. You can see the list down there. Villages often say that these are simple neighborly help tasks, what you could call on a neighbor to do. There are some villages that will maintain vetted lists of professional services providers. Others will just perhaps count on neighborhood listservs and neighborhood ratings of service providers. So who are we? Who is WAVE? Well, we're the umbrella organization that brings together nonprofit villages to learn and grow. We say, learning together. We've been around for almost 25 years, and we've grown from a very small area immediately around the district. We now include villages as far away as Charlottesville, Shepherdstown, West Virginia, Baltimore, and Annapolis, and we hope we'll maybe add some from Pennsylvania soon. So what do? Well, we offer, of most importance here, we offer a good mentoring program. And these are the types of activities that people may have need for. We try and help villages at whatever stage they're at. And if we don't have the expertise to help them with their problems, we have an agreement with the National Village to Village Network that if again, we don't have the expertise, we can refer them to the national organization's roster of mentors. So our grant is for us to promote and support villages in Maryland. We've got educational programs, like our grant making program this evening at 6:30, networking opportunities. And we have some support for marketing communications. We have developed some templates that villages can use to advertise their own villages. We promote collaborations between villages and area agencies on aging and counties and nonprofits, and that's why you're here. We had an initial session on April 30th, and the audience for that was villages themselves, so that they could learn about these opportunities. So this is the other side of the coin now, so that you all can learn about villages and how you can partner with them. We have a very interesting feasibility study on data collection and analysis of villages. We're looking at the baseline and the challenges, of which there are many, and some opportunities. We can subsidize Maryland villages for membership in WAVE, in the Village to Village Network, or with the Maryland Nonprofits Organization, which can be very helpful. And we have some workshops coming up. This evening from 6:30 to 8:30, we have a grant writing workshop. We're going to be scheduling a workshop on basic accounting and another one on recruiting, training, and maintaining volunteers. And I hope you'll all mark your calendars for October 15th, where we'll have our annual in-person conference in Silver Spring in the Civic Center, and we'll have details to follow. And you can find that on our shared calendar. So that ends my own comments, but before I turn it over to the panel, I'm going to introduce Chelsea Wheeler, who is, to say, the Manager of Supportive Communities for the Maryland Department on Aging and the issuer of the current RFP on healthy aging.
Greetings, everyone, and thank you for being here. So here at the department, we have a couple funding opportunities. One that was just recently sent out for SCOFF and how SCOFF can partner with your villages in your jurisdictions. Later on today, we will actually have that program manager, Andrew Baker, to be able to speak a little bit on that and how that opportunity arises in terms of creating those sustainable and innovative programs for your senior centers. The other grant funding opportunity is Aging in Place, which that application is due at the end of this month, May 31st. And there is a preference where villages should be reaching out to the AAAs and municipalities in a partnership. I think it would be a benefit, a mutual benefit, because when there can be instances of low capacity, whether from the village or even on the AAA side, you're working together to provide a service to your community members in your jurisdiction. The other initiatives that we are currently working on is the Montgomery County Consortium Hub and Spoke. So today we actually had our first meeting, and we will be developing a strategic plan in partnership with the Montgomery Consortium on that. So if we have any members from the AAA and Montgomery Consortium, please reach out, and your feedback is invaluable. And Mary Jo, I'm gonna take it back to you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And again, if Andrew comes on board, I will let him just jump in. So our first presentation is going to be by Crystal Beatty of the Maryland Umbrella Group and Layla Riazi of Cheverly Village. And this is an example of villages partnering with nonprofits. Take it away, Layla and Crystal.
Thank you for having us.
Let me stop. I'm just going up to stop sharing.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay. Slideshow. Okay. Can everyone see my screen? Okay. Okay. All right, Layla.
Okay. Good afternoon. It's good to see that we have about 30 people here today. And many of those who are here are familiar with villages. One of the things that I think that as a village leader, that I always need to be in a place of openness and the idea of where we're headed. I know where we began. I know what our plans were in the beginning, And I know as we have matured, how our perspectives and some of our needs have changed. But one of the things that we're here to really talk with all of our partners, nonprofits, AAAs, all of the above, is the idea that we need villages, and more specifically, the why. And the idea that we contribute an intrinsic understanding and connection, from the smallest of villages, most informal, to those that are heavily structured with multiple staff members, with municipal supports. Our strength, to remind ourselves that our strength lies in our trusted community and neighbor connection with both our members and our volunteers. And this is what we need to make sure that all of those that we're looking to partner with understand we bring to the table. And the idea that we are uniquely, and I argue very strongly, and many of us on here argue very strongly, are uniquely positioned to identify and understand both the individual needs of our members and the collective needs of our members within our communities. And the idea so often that we've found ourselves in when we're in conversation of people wanting to do for older adults rather than to empower, do with, and support our members and volunteers in the ways that they can partner. The idea of preserving agency and the idea of empowering older adults to control how they want to age well and in their communities. And Crystal, if you could move on for me, please. So what we're here to talk about today is how villages, and this is a reminder to self, that we need not go it alone. So many of us started as independent villages. The idea that when you see one village, you see one village. Don't tell me to be like someone else. And that uniqueness is invaluable, and it's a cherished hallmark of the movement. As we've matured, as we've grown, we've also realized, there are ways that we can do more, provide more, expand our bandwidth, become sustainable for the future. And it's the embracing and activating of these positive possibilities that are value added, and to caution ourselves not to regard these opportunities as threats, instead to regard them as the value added. And one of the things that has led, for example, for our village in our cooperation with the Maryland Umbrella Group, is the idea of how this collaboration, cooperation, and these partnership opportunities can multiply the resources and multiply our ability to serve the specific needs of our members. And just one of the things that we'll come back to is the way in which we do this is critical. The idea of village voices being valued and centered. When I've worked with Crystal over the years, I know that she shares the same value system when it comes to elevating the agency of older adults and working in neighborhood situations, and making sure that our members are centered and served through these relationships. Turning over to you, Crystal, and then we'll engage together.
Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really excited to be here as usual and speaking with a group of like-minded individuals. I wanted to tell you a little bit about the Maryland Umbrella Group. We are a 501c3 as well. And one of the things I think that's extremely exciting about this opportunity today, and then working with villages, is what villages are able to do through partnering with other nonprofits is to fill in some of the financial voids that may, in many instances, escape them because of their budget. In partnering with our nonprofit, the villages of Prince George's County have gained access to expertise from my staff in all of the following listed areas. So we have previous staff that worked for the Area Agency on Aging, worked in nonprofit community-based services, adult daycare, retirement communities, care managers, dementia specialists, village consulting, aging services program and design for municipalities, and then, of course, grant writers. One of the things that the Maryland Umbrella Group does in working with villages is to use what we call the design thinking model for use. And what that does is it's a nonlinear process that we use. It focuses on collaboration, which we're here today to talk about, of course, between both the designers and the users. And I think that that's extremely important in working with villages, because the people that are the village builders are building a village that one way is representative of their talents and gifts, but it's to really empower the users, the members of the village. So the design thinking model works extremely well. It sort of brings together all of life's solutions based on how we really think, how we feel, and then how we behave. It's human-centered design, as it says here on the slide, has 5 areas or 5 core stages that we use. Empathizing with the people that we are designing a program for, then helping them define what exactly they want to do and bring it into an idea format. Then we help them shape the template of what they want to take that to, and then we test it. So those are the steps that we use to help take a village from formation through the lengthy process, if done correctly, the lengthy process, to actually opening their doors and beginning to provide services for the people that they're trying to serve. Through previous funding from the Maryland Department of Aging, MUG has created a partnership with all of the villages in Prince George's County to create what we call the Prince George's County Village Connection. Our website is here. In Prince George's County, we only have 5 villages. And we know that as there are many villages here within the state of Maryland, there are many more seniors that need access to services and programs. And if we continue in silos, whether it's nonprofits, municipalities, for-profits, or government agencies, we're not going to be able to meet the needs by ourselves. So forming this Prince George's County connection has enabled us to take on the daunting task of helping to expand villages in Prince George's County. So we have been able, through this partnership, to create a mobile presentation to educate the community about villages and hope to spark interest in various communities around the county on how those can be expanded. We've already had 4 sessions around the county, and our 5th one, actually, we had planned on only 4, but we've now added an online one that's going to be on Sunday, June 9th in the evening, to meet the needs of people that couldn't travel during the day to attend our events. Our goal through forming the Prince George's County Village Connection, because even with 5 villages in the county, we found that they're all a little, like you said, a little different, but many of them have roots with municipalities, others are standalone 501c3s, and some are even part of a municipal government. So with that, we felt that we had a wide enough array to come together and hopefully inspire other jurisdictions or other individuals to pick up the mantle and move forward into creating villages around the county.
And Crystal, something that might be helpful here is to understand that the way in which we're doing that might compare with some other areas. Crystal went through some of the structures of existing villages, but more what we're hearing from people is that, at least in our county, municipalities cannot be the only way to go. We need to really be rethinking how villages come into formation with civic associations, with HOAs, with faith-based organizations, all the different ways, neighborhoods that people will come together, and how to help people engage this without what is often a 2-year process, to bring together those of us who have come before and traveled this journey, to be able to be in a place to support them through into deciding if a village really is what they're seeking as a model, And if the answer is yes, how we can support them into getting into beginning the process and getting to where they wish to go in the process.
Thank you. My last slide here is sort of, I guess you would say, a hub and spoke model of village participation and partnership opportunities. I think that as silos, each one of us realize that there are many more people out there than we by ourselves can potentially serve, whether it's with taxpayer dollars, with federal funds, whatever your source of income may be, that by doing it together and bringing about economies of scales, we can always serve more people. So opening those centers of dialogue, so whether it's between the village and a nonprofit or a for-profit, municipality, area agency, or an aging, or even like Layla said, on a smaller scale, homeowners associations, or even a group of concerned citizens that really want to age in their area, their block. It can be just that small or just as large as many of the villages that we have either around the screen today or nationally, whether it's a multi-million-dollar Capitol Hill village or it's a small 990 postcard size village. It really, it's all about seizing the moment and the opportunities that are before us. So I challenge everyone here that's here on this screen to really consider partnership opportunities. You don't have to do this alone. And we can be stronger and we can make more of an impact together if we unite and bring all of our departments and all of our programs together to serve older adults in the state of Maryland and the Metro DC area. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Layla and Crystal. We appreciate that very much. That was very revealing of the extent to which the Prince George's County's villages are really, reaching out to begin to, grow and strengthen their participation. Our next panel is going to be on municipalities working with villages. Crystal, can I confirm that you are going to offer a few words on that too, wearing your other hat?
Yes, I'm going to spin around in my chair and come back as a municipality.
Okay,
as well. But I think I'm going to let Trish go first because I want to have some water.
So I will hold on. I'm going to share my screen then. I will get into.
And I can, Andrew did jump on, and so we could bring that all together of how those AAAs and municipalities
yes,
come
please.
together.
Absolutely. Let's do that next. Andrew, maybe you can introduce him again?
So Andrew Baker is one of my colleagues at Maryland Department of Aging, and he is the program manager that just presented or just announced a few weeks ago the Senior Center Operating Fund. And Andrew can talk a little bit about that. Andrew?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Andrew Baker with the Maryland Department on Aging. If you want to get in touch with me after this meeting, you can reach me at andrew.baker@maryland.gov. And as Chelsea had mentioned, I operate the Senior Center Operating Fund for the state of Maryland. So one of the, every year we have a competitive focus for this operating fund money. That's a large pool of money that's available. And the focus for this year is helping AAAs create community partnerships with organizations that operate in their community to serve older adults with unmet need. So if you have any, sorry, I'm jumping in a little bit blind here. So Chelsea, feel free to hop over and I'm not sure what the audience is for this meeting here. So
the audience, we have AAA members. Am I correct, Mary Jo?
We do. For example, we've got people as far away as Allegheny County and Wicomico.
Yeah, and we even have some representatives from Virginia, Andrew.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So I apologize for the Virginia folks, but we're going to talk about some Maryland specific information right now. But I believe that all of the AAA directors should have received the Aging Program Directive for the Senior Center Operating Fund. And if y'all weren't able to attend the webinar last week, please let me know and I can send over a copy of that recording so that we can share a little bit more information. But yeah, just on that topic of building community engagement and connecting with those resources that are already operating in your community. There is a little bit of a different process for bringing those folks on. Traditionally, the Senior Center Operating Fund has just paid for operations carried out by the AAA and at the county level. But for this program, bringing on some of those community organizations, we have to have a sub-grant award. I want to flag that none of those funds can be used for administrative purposes, but if you do have a community organization that operates in your area, as a AAA director, if you want to get in touch with them, you can list them as a sub-grantee and they can get some of this money from Senior Center Operating Fund. I apologize, there is a bit of quick turnaround on this. We are accepting applications until May 31st. So again, sorry for the short turnaround. But we will be looking at those applications and providing funding for the state fiscal year 2025. So that's the main point of my story. But again, I apologize. I'd be happy to answer any questions or provide any clarification.
Perhaps what we could do is have you put it into the chat and they could follow up with you afterward.
Oh, sure.
That would be good. And I do want to say that I already mentioned that at 6:30 tonight, 6:30 to 8:30, we have a grant writing workshop. So for any of you who are applying for either of these grants and you just need to sharpen your pencils a little bit, why, please join us. I'll give you information about how to join that later on.
And sorry, Mary Jo, it's a little off topic, but I see you've got the Cocopelli on your collar. Are you from New Mexico?
I was a wannabe Taosanian for a while from Taos. I wanted to live in Taos, and then it's a long story, but I had a place there for 10 years. But thank you for noticing. Yes.
Yeah, I come to Maryland by way of New Mexico, so always happy to chat about that.
Oh, yes, we can exchange stories on that. Strange things happen in New Mexico. It's wonderful. Okay, well, let's go on with our program now. Let me, I think what we're going to do is we're going to talk.
Mary Jo, you have a hand raised.
Oh, I'm sorry. Please call
Hey,
on the.
Mary, this is Aram from the Baltimore County Department of Aging. I'm not sure if we have time for questions for Andrew, but I did have a question for him. So maybe I can just follow up via email.
Yeah. Okay.
If that's appropriate. Okay.
Yep. Definitely follow up with Andrew. And that way, whatever questions you may have, because I know you're coming from a AAA, he will be able to, give you that time and space.
Excellent. Okay, well then, Trish Evans, as I say, she's the very first Villages Coordinator for the City of Rockville. Take it away, Trish. I'll advance your slides when you tell me.
Okay, thank you. I'm thrilled to be here among such inspiring men and women who are doing all good things in their communities. I'm just proud to be part of this group. So as Mary Jo said, I am the first village facilitator in the City of Rockville. To give you a little orientation, that little colorful part in the county, it's almost county center, is the City of Rockville. It is incorporated. It is managed by an elected mayor and 6-member council and governed more day-to-day operations by a city manager and staff beyond. You can go next, if you will. We have an embarrassment of riches in the city because we are within Montgomery County. The villages started, the origins started with a group of very vocal community members who formed the Village Advisory Committee, and they saw the work that Pazit and others were doing nationally. And as we know, Pazit does not need a last name. And so they said, you know what, we want a Pazit in Rockville. And so I was fortunate enough to be the first one and try and follow in her footsteps, which I did. Basically holding onto her apron for a great time as I oriented myself into the extraordinary village world. You can go on if you would, Mary Jo. We don't need to spend a lot of time on this slide because I'll be going through these things, but just to give you an idea of what I will be talking about. And if Mary Jo, you wouldn't mind stop sharing, because I really like the interaction of seeing your
Oh.
faces, if that's okay. Just
Yeah.
for now, we'll get back to it. We'll get back to it. So the origins, 2016, like I said, this advisory group managed to advocate for a full-time position. It had never existed before in the city. There were a few small groups sort of chatting with Pazit and trying to get some traction, but really didn't take hold. And it was going to be a different model because the city is so small and so self-contained that I was very focused, hyper-focused. And I was listening to Layla and Crystal talk about all these collaborations, and they're so much bigger. So I had to really start with the idea of it's not going to work if it's just Rockville. So that started me on the journey of working with Pazit and learning the vast resources, and Mary Jo, and attending these sort of orientation groups, and really baptism by fire. I had a lot to learn in a very short period of time. And one of the first things that I realized was that in order to make anything get off the ground in Rockville, it was going to require volunteer recruitment. So I'm not sure who mentioned, Layla and Crystal, you both mentioned homeowners associations, civic associations, community events. I was that bad penny that I kept showing up everywhere. I was everywhere, probably obnoxiously so at times, but I went everywhere, door to door, basically, to try and get the word out. There was a lot of educating that needed to be done. Many people did not understand what a village was. Was it even possible in their neighborhoods? I felt the position fell under the Recreation and Parks Department, thankfully, and my office is in the Rockville Senior Center. So there's all kinds of connections and collaborations, and I had the resources of the city. I had their communication channels, their graphics designers, their map makers, I had the access to facilities to hold these community meetings. There are community centers and parks all over the city, and I had access to those. And I want to drive home a point that for those of you who don't have that collaboration and that hyper focus, there are ways to negotiate with your local municipalities. And I am happy to go into more of that and talk. I don't want to go drill down too deeply into that, but it was a lot of advocating, and I got the program got an enormous amount of support in many ways. I looked under every rock. I went to every conference. I attended village to village, trying to impart some new resources to the small groups that are wanted to form in the city. I want to talk about budget, because this is really important for other municipalities who might consider having a full-time person who is dedicated to making this happen in their community. Currently, the operating budget is basically my salary. I'm fortunate to have a 5 to 10 hour a week part-time person. And she's been a great addition. That's very recent in the last 6 months, as the capacity, my bandwidth is reaching its capacity. And that's it, $5,000, I think, is what's in the budget. And with that, I can provide some food and from events and publicity and printing and some collaborative, collateral, marketing collateral. I do that because it's a pull-up banner. So things like that. But I also work with a nonprofit called the Village Support Network, who is funded by the county and the city and other grants. And what they've been able to do with that partnership, and not just for the city, it started out primarily the city, but they get funds and then they can distribute things that I can't do as a municipality. For example, a grant writing workshop. Yes, I could put that on, but Village Support Network can replicate that. And like Mary Jo said, collaborate beyond my scope. And so I work with local businesses. It's another collaboration that I haven't heard too much about, but can be extremely valuable. They want community members in their stores, in their restaurants. They want to provide support because it's the right thing to do, but also they're business people, and they are so amenable to hosting an event in their restaurant. We had a game night, for example, and they provided gift cards for the winners of the game card, as well as holding a place, thinking that people were going to buy their snacks and beverages from the restaurant. But just those kind of collaborations are, I'm learning that there's so much creativity in the village world, and it's just incredibly inspiring, and I get really jazzed. So if I'm talking really fast, forgive me, because it's pretty exciting. So at a relatively low cost, to a municipality, they have a full-time dedicated person who, that is all I do, is I am out in the community. I'm at every meeting, I'm at every place they can be, and I'm connecting not just city village members, but with, each other, but also broadening it out, exposing them to the resources of the Village to Village Network, imparting what I'm learning in these amazing WAVE and MDOA presentations, and I can pass that on to them. So it's like I'm a big salad bar of resources for the villages. And I really like the outside collaborations. Crystal, I so enjoyed talking with you and learning so much about just different ways of thinking and ways that I can help the villagers in the community. Currently, I am working with 7 little groups. There's one that has launched into a nonprofit. I guess they started before my time. Took them 4 years to develop, and they had a lot of visite help. And they're independently funded. All of the Rockville villages are self-governing. I do not dictate how they are run. No, my bosses don't dictate how they are run. I am there just to literally facilitate their development, growth, sustainability in whatever way that looks like. And sometimes you just never know. So there are 7 little groups that I'm working with, and we are now evolving into, we have a little quarterly forum in which they can share ideas. Some of you have been even guest speakers at those quarterly forums. So it's an opportunity. I give them opportunities to learn from each other and other models. The city is very supportive. I can't drive that home enough, but at little cost overall. And I think that's something to really make clear, that I don't have to, fortunately, in order for the program to grow, I could use more resources and make them go further. But I'm really lucky that I have so much in-house support. That being said, reaching out and learning from you, from the state level, from the national level, from the DMV generally, it's all of value to the residents of Rockville. But hopefully I can help all of you as you move forward with the things that you would like to do. For sustainability, I'm going to need that always continuing to learn. And I think, Layla, you said it when you said that it's always evolving. I didn't really know, and no one in the powers that be that hired me really knew what exactly they wanted to see happen. They just wanted villages, and poof, it was all of, I'll just spin in my chair and there's going to be villages all over the city. Well, we all know that that's not the case. So it's ever evolving. I love working with outside partners. I love helping when I can. I love brainstorming with all of you in ways that I can help. If there are other questions and things like that, I would really like to hear. I'm looking forward to the question and answer to see if hopefully I've sparked some ideas. Mary Jo, the last slide is just my contact information, and that I welcome hearing from the rest of you.
Hold on. I'm not, okay. Well, I'm going to get out of
It's
that.
okay. You know how to reach me.
Oh, okay. Okay, there we go. All right, thank you very much. And Crystal, back to you again. I knew that Crystal wore 2 hats, but I didn't know if she was going to wear only 1 hat at a time or 2 hats at a time. So Crystal, thank you so much, and go ahead, please.
Okay, let me just share here. Screen. Okay. Okay. I'm now here today to talk about the City of Greenbelt and our municipal partnership with Greenbelt Intergenerational Volunteer Exchange Service, better known as GIVES. Before there was an aging program in the City of Greenbelt, there was the GIVES Village. It is technically the oldest village in the United States, being founded in 1995. So next year there will be 30 years old. We always battle back and forth with Beacon Hill as to who was here first, but it gets down to the months and the days as far as where we are, as far as in sequential order. And 1995 was a very busy year. Um, Greenbelt Gives is a typical village, typical in that they provide transportation, respite, dog walking, a wide array of services, many of which I'm sure that the people around the screen do participate in. But the city of Greenbelt was unique in that in 1995, the same year that Gives began, the last nursing home and assisted living closed in the city of Greenbelt. And outside of the Greenridge House, which is a HUD Section 8 senior apartment building, the city of Greenbelt had no aging services programs designed ideally for older adults who wanted to remain in the city. So they formed what they called the Assisted Living Task Force. And for 2 years, this task force met trying to determine what was going to be the next senior service option for its residents. Was it a brick and mortar structure? So they visited retirement communities. They did on the spot interviews with residents. They did surveys, and they came back to city council and said, our residents want to age in community. They do not want a brick and mortar structure. They want a program. And this program, out of this task force, was built the Greenbelt Assistance and Living Program, the GAIL program. We love acronyms in Greenbelt, so Gives and GAIL, okay? And people always think that's my name when they call the office. Like, can I speak to GAIL? But it's the Greenbelt Assistance and Living Program. And we offer a wide array of services. But the services that we offer were designed to complement the village, meaning that we don't do what they do and they don't do what we do. So our program, for example, we offer free community nursing services, information and referral, case management, caregiver support groups, and memory cafes. We have an adaptable equipment program. We have a program called SOS, or Save Our Seniors, which is a crisis intervention program. We have a partnership with the Greenbelt Police, which is a vulnerable resident alert program. We offer tons of classes. We have an aging internship program with 6 different universities in various disciplines, from public health to social work to nursing. We have a hoarding task force, a produce program, incontinence, that should have said closet. I'll correct that before I send that to you, Mary Jo. And then we also offer what we call a municipality hub and spoke model. We're currently working with another municipality providing their aging services program. Now, Greenbelt came to the realization that, again, my favorite word, silos. We couldn't operate alone. We had Gives already functioning in Greenbelt, and we knew that we'd be stronger serving more older adults if we partnered together. We realized that villages, early on, we realized that villages brought on value to the municipality. And like I said, what a city can do, and then what we won't do or not eligible to do. So we partnered with those 3 things that you see listed here, the SOS program, where we partnered with the village to deliver accessibility items to residents in their homes through that particular grant. Our produce program, they enable us to serve homebound residents. So the village volunteers go out and deliver food to our homebound seniors and disabled residents. And then grant writing. By nature, by career, I'm a grant writer. And with that, I've worked in conjunction with Gives to bring additional funds to aging programs here within the city. In exchange for Gives doing all the great work that they've done over the 24 years they've been around, the 29 years they've been around, the city of Greenbelt provides office space for them. So they're in our community center here in Greenbelt. We have an IT department, so we offer them computer and tech support and phone service. Gives is also what we call a contribution group, and each year the city supports them with financial assistance. They in turn use that to help offset some of their expenses. Excuse me. such as liability insurance, for example, and other ancillary, stamps and postage and things of that nature that may come across their way. One of the things that we have seen, even though the GALE program provides such a wide array of services, it's extremely important that the village, while their services, while their services are a great addition to the GALE program, we realize their value and work very hard with them on a regular basis to meet the needs of our residents. And those services that GIVES provides, as well as the GALE program, morph over time. What they did back in '95 is definitely not some of the things that they do now. They're not programming VCRs. They're not fixing the blinking light maybe on so many microwaves, or maybe not even writing as many letters as that was one of the tasks that they did back in the '90s. So one of the things that we found is that it's extremely important for programs to be aware of the changing times and to be able to morph, such as when we had COVID, how we were able to change our delivery and our service models to meet that need. So it's true for villages to continue to be relevant in the communities. And as different generations age in community, it's extremely important for those villages and for municipalities to be willing and flexible enough to change to be able to meet the needs of those residents currently and the future generations that are coming forward. So what we found is that villages and municipalities make a great mix. They're not the only option, of course, for partnerships with villages, but in the city of Greenbelt, we definitely consider it a success story. And there's my contact information.
Thank you very much, Crystal. I appreciate that very much. Our next set of speakers is going to be talking about county activities to support villages. And we will kick off, just going alphabetically by last name, with the woman who needs no last name. Pazit will tell us a little bit about Montgomery County and the work that's been going on there for the last 10 years.
Thank you, Mary Jo. I think the reason people are not using my last name is because it's just so hard to pronounce. So
no, it's not. Pazit, would you
I
like
am
me
kidding, Mary Jo.
Pazit, would you like me to share the screen and show you slides, or were you going to?
Yeah, because then I can focus on talking and we can.
Sure.
Some of the slides, I think, contain information the previous speakers may have touched on. So I am going to.
I have to get into my screen sharing.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm just getting ready to share my screen. Hold on.
All right.
And then you tell me when I should move on.
All right. No, that's just the beginning. You can go ahead. I was experimenting with transition. I think Layla was talking about the importance of the villages as that on the ground entity, that formal delivery system of services have not been able to form those meaningful social relationship locally that so much hinges on in terms of people's well-being and ability to connect meaningfully to each other and to resources and services. And I think that overall, when you go out to the community and talk about villages, there are kind of two different themes I've heard people talk. And I think it's important that we think about our message as kind of a unified approach to this concept, which is multifaceted. You can think of a village as a place where you can get a free ride to your doctors or to the grocery store. You can think of a village as a place where you can get to talk about local politics, go to a bridge club or other events as a social vehicle. You can think of a village as a place where you can meaningfully connect and volunteer and give back to the community. So it's a civic engagement and wellness for people who are active and don't need much. The secret is that it's all true. And different people need different things from their village at different points in time. And that's the beauty of this idea. It's not one thing. It's a bunch of different things. And as Crystal had touched about, which I think is tremendously important, is that villages have proved themselves to be flexible and nimble organization that respond to the current need of the community. They don't stay rigid in a particular set of activities, but they do things in a way that makes sense to folks. Do you want to move on? For those of you who are in the world of public health, the social determinants of health is a big deal for folks who are thinking about where to put our money, how we're going to get impact from what we invest in. And villages are really a part of the conversation around social determinants of health. And not just one way of it, but different parts of a village function meets different criteria of need under the social determinants of health. If anybody is looking for more information, I actually just came back from an extremely enjoyable presentation I did to my daughter's high school class on health about the social determinants of health. We had a game we played. It was the most engaging group. And we were thinking about ways that how person and environment, how we live our life and in what kind of environments and communities we live our life affect the way we thrive and age. So super fun. We can talk more about that another time. Okay, next. So I want to talk about the village characteristic a little bit, because for those of you who have been in part of a village, sometimes there's a tendency to say, well, I know about the village movement. I've worked with Village X, but in fact, they are fundamentally different. And so if you are intended to understand about this movement more and consider ways that this idea can take shape in your community, take the time to learn about the different villages. They can be all volunteer-led and run or have staff. They can be started by local community members, but I've seen a few recently that start up differently, and which is very exciting. And I think that if you have a village and community, take the time to get to know them and understand how they work, what they do, and see how you can support them. Okay, next. Oops. Thank you. Okay, so the county villages in around 2011 or 2012 advocated for a staff position to support the village movement in the county. So it didn't come from HHS or the county executive. It was a result of very effective advocacy in support with the Commission on Aging. And when they created the position, they didn't really know exactly what this would mean. So they have this outline of expectation. So a lot of the work that I'd engaged in recently, well, in the past 10 years, was responding to need that the community presented. So what are village leaders telling me? What are communities asking for? And I keep changing what I do. So the things I was very invested in 2014 are not as much as the focus of my work right now. And I hope to continuously evolve as the village movement evolves, so I can continue to be responsive and effective in this work. So the kind of things that county has been able to do for villages, and all of them have made a difference. So I can't say one thing is more important than the other, is technical assistance. As you can imagine, if someone wants to start a village and they were accountant in their professional life, but they want to begin a community organization, they don't know much about the way to start a non-for-profit organization and all the minutia that goes along with it. So there's lots of questions about the nitty-gritty detail. How do you do this? How do you apply for Maryland tax status? How do you apply with the IRS for tax exempt? What is liability insurance, bylaws, all these things? And village leaders, when they form, often realize that there's stuff going on in the big world, but it's very overwhelming. Sometimes there's a problem with too much information, and being able to sift through the type of information that you need in that particular point in time without too much of a headache has been something that I've invested some of my time in. So I often don't let people drink from the fire hose. I say, okay, what do you need right now at your stage? What are the most salient question in your mind that I can help you with? So these are the kind of things that I did under technical assistance, and I do other things as well. They were just examples. Grants, the county had been generous, especially county executive. They had a pool of money. Things have changed since, don't get me started. But several villages were able to successfully write some grants originally that kind of aged into the base budget, so they don't need to apply annually. So we currently have 11 villages that are receiving some county support. It's not a whole lot of money, but it goes a long way. As we all know, these things really do make a difference. And I also asked a while back, and the Commission on Aging helped me to do that, is for what I call the pocket money. So if you're just starting an organization, you're not even a non-for-profit yet, how are you going to apply for a grant to help you get the money if you're not even a non-for-profit? So there's a little sort of chicken and the egg here. And I have monies dedicated to help people as they spend money to get themselves going, with a focus especially on underserved and diverse communities. So I call it my startup fund, and I've used it for all kinds of purposes. I have since become more flexible about the kind of things that we think qualify under that, but it's been very impactful for folks who didn't have the cash flow to start spending money. Additionally, because I'm a county employee, I have access to all these county spaces, and that has been really helpful, especially in communities that are short of community spaces. We have built many of our cities and counties and suburbia without careful consideration to the powerful ways physical environment, the built environment, is conducive for community. Greenbelt is one of those rare gems, one of the few in the country, and we also have Kentlands and Lakelands in this Gaithersburg area that really have that physical vision in building a community. But most places really struggle in terms of finding a place to connect. Again, as a county employee, I have a relationship with myriad of different county departments who are not just happy, but also eager to connect with villages because they have a lot of information, services, and resources, or sometimes they have a question in mind. And so by being that conduit and a connector between the different county department, Office of Emergency Management, Fire and Police, Office of Consumer Protection, HHS, and many, many other programs, they now know that if they have something they want to share in the community, they contact me. I get them set up with the monthly village leaders, or I push information to village leaders, and we have wonderful relationships this way. Additionally, is not just county, but also nonprofits that work around intergenerational work, arts work, caregiving, transportation. We had a very robust coalition working with hospitals for a minute there, but then hospitals kind of gave up on the conversation. It was a little too complicated. I'm still not giving up on this idea, but it's complicated. In addition, I've spent many, many hours on the road traveling all over, and people have mentioned in the past the kind of groups you can talk to when you do outreach. And in my mind, if there's more than 1 or 2 people, they're a group, they want to talk about villages, I'll talk to them. So it could be any group that is interested. They will get an outreach event with me, or either I give a presentation or I attend their event or health fair. That had been a remarkable way, first and foremost, getting to know people in the community, in the county, but also spreading the word out there. And last but not least is information sharing. And I see information sharing, once you have a network of villages, it's a two-way communication. Villages have their ears to the ground. They know exactly what's going on with people and what people are concerned about. And that had proved invaluable, especially around COVID. We had a group that met, I think, almost every week or every other week when COVID started. And a lot of the feedback we've gotten from Village saying, here's what our members are really freaking out of, had helped us shape some of the interventions and some of the resources we developed. And of course, villages receive information which they then share with their members or just amongst themselves. You want to move on to the next? There we go.
You're on the hub and spoke. I did change it.
You changed.
Did you want to talk about the hub and spoke?
Yeah, but it's the next slide.
It's up on my screen. Aren't you seeing it?
Oh, I'm sorry.
It just looks the same.
It looks so much the same. I was like, what? It hasn't changed. Okay. So
go.
Mary Jo had asked that I talk about the hub and spoke as an example to the kind of things we can do collectively and can get county support. The inception of the hub and spoke program was in a conversation we had with village leaders about their needs on recruiting volunteer leaders to their boards and just board development in general. So we spent some money on providing some board development and strategic planning. And then we came back to the drawing board and say, well, that was nice, but not really impactful. So then we did a survey. What are the things, what are your pain points? What are the things that really bother you? And processing the data, the information villages gave, it became clear that there's a lot of alignment in terms of shared concern that could potentially have shared solution. So I brought up the idea of perhaps thinking about a hub and spoke where some of the things that villages needs, for example, help with bookkeeping or insurance or staffing, phone line, communication, can then be resolved collectively rather than every village having to go at it on its own two legs. And so Layla, I really resonate. You'd mentioned the hub and spoke, and I think also Crystal, there's so much more we can do when we align ourselves and work collectively. So villages were a little apprehensive and said, okay, why don't you go out to the world and do a little bit of research work for us and go find out what other states are doing around their hub and spoke. So with the help of a wonderful colleague from Bradley Hill Village, we interviewed extensively other hub and spoke organizations to understand how they work, how they did it, how much money, blah, blah, blah. And the report is available on the Village to Village Network website. If you are interested, I think it holds great potential, especially for counties who feel like they're too large and they want to build an infrastructure to then allow local villages to form. Please call me if you have any questions about that. I'm happy to talk about it more. And then we facilitated many meetings to process the information and reach consensus about, okay, what kind of model of hub and spoke would work for the county? And that was painful because it's very difficult to reach consensus, and we decided that you will never reach consensus. Never. And those villages that gravitated towards some kind of a solution formed the startup organization, and I helped them with the monies necessary to establish the corporation. We got a nice support from Maryland nonprofit lawyer, a wonderful man. And he did, I think, a spectacular job in getting the organization set up and going. And then we did a lot of advocacy. How do we get this organization funded? Because the organization isn't just about supporting current villages. Since we did a lot of work around diversity, equity, and inclusion, villages recently have become much more mindful about their responsibility and ability to support adjacent communities that might have a harder time starting their own village. So the hub organization is intended to support existing villages, but also provide substantial help to villages who are starting up in more diverse community, in underserved community, in socioeconomically disadvantaged communities. So we advocated for money. We got a nice bill signed by the governor of Maryland for a pilot program for the hub and spoke for 3 years. It's extremely exciting and amazing. Only the money starts in FY26. So we have a little gap in funding, and we're scrambling right now to figure out what to do for this coming year. And of course, they did get a generous grant from MDOA. Originally, the money will run out in June to do some outreach work, and they hired a spectacular person to do some of those outreach efforts in different communities. And she and I had been collaborating on different ways to get that done, even facilitated a session in the Village to Village network on outreach strategies. And so currently there's a nice report that will come out. Rhonda, I owe you edits. It's been really busy. I know you're there. I'm working on it. And one last thing that I think that Mary Jo wanted me. How many with time? Do you want to stop me?
Well, we are running quite late.
Okay, I'm not going to talk about the last slide then.
What was it?
Just
Oh.
in terms of the importance of being the bridge between villages and other formal structures, that whoever you are, it's really important that you're mindful about the value of connecting the villages with other structures. I think it speaks for itself. Done.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I do want to say that the Hub and Spokes report is also available on the wavevillages.org website. If you go to our page and look on resources, and you'll find some very interesting things there. All right, so hold on, I have to let's see, I have to escape this. I have to get into. I have Trish Evans will be coming up. No, I'm sorry. Aram Abbasi. Now let me just get this started. And there we go. Are we all set, Aram?
I don't see my presentation, but my internet is also slow and has been disconnecting lately. So I'm assuming everybody else can see my like the screen that Mary has put up.
Mary Jo, we do not see.
Okay.
We're still at the bridge between community and government slide of
It's
position.
interesting because it says I'm sharing. It says you are screen sharing, and my screen now shows Aram's Villages of Baltimore County.
Yeah, I think that you're going to have to back out and come back.
Okay, I'll close out of. Hold on, let me just get out of that one. I'll actually close out of Pazitz. Just a minute, all together. Oh, come on. What happens is it then? Come on. File. Come on. See, what happens is that the little red dot for me to close out of it doesn't, I'm gonna have to quit PowerPoint altogether. And then I'm gonna have to go back in and open it up again. And I will get this one and put it back up again. Are you seeing my screen yet? No?
Not yet.
Oh, for Pete's sakes.
And so it's
Sometimes
okay
the-
if I
Well,
think
why
I
don't you
only
start
had, like,
talking?
yeah,
Yeah, why
I
don't you
think
go
I
ahead
only
and
have
start
2
talking?
slides.
Yeah, why
Yeah,
don't you go ahead.
yeah, okay, perfect. I see it now.
It has come up, Mary Jo.
All right. So just to considering the time, I know I do have another meeting right after this. So Aram Abbasi from the Baltimore County Department of Aging. I had just joined the Department of Aging about 7 months ago with the focus on really reaching out to the marginalized communities here in Baltimore County, what our county executive, and there's been a national effort as well, as probably all of you know as well, on really reaching out to those individuals, communities that are not utilizing our resources. So I have been working with, okay, thanks. Thanks, Mary. So right now in Baltimore County, we have 2 developed villages and about 6 in the process. So we are utilizing, so when I joined about 7 months ago, thanks to Pazid and some of our Carol and Mary Jo, all of our partners here are really helping guide this development of new villages and just supporting, I guess, me in terms of educating me on some of the other elements of the way villages are run. I have been, supporting a village for the last 10 years that primarily focuses on or serves older adults that are immigrants. So with that background, I joined the BCDA and really tasked with reaching out to communities that are serving, individuals from different ethnic backgrounds. So we did a RFP about a couple months ago, and sent it out to everyone in Baltimore County communities, asking them to, before we sent out the RFP, I actually met with different community leaders across the county and share the model, the village, share the concept of villages, and everyone immediately said, this is what we need. We are supporting our communities as a whole, but our older adults really need the village in our community, because that's something, there's language barrier, that's there's cultural values that's preventing them from utilizing our Baltimore County resources. So they wanted the village model and in their community. So we sent out the RFP about a couple months ago and have successfully selected 6 organizations that are catering to different population, including we have a organization that focuses on Chinese population. There's one organization that especially, caters to immigrants. There's an organization that focuses on the Nepali population, and there's a lot of others as well. And there's an organization that utilizes younger adults, young entrepreneurs to support older adults. So a multi-generational model as well. So that is yet to begin. So we're really in our early stages. There's a lot of information that from Pazit, thank you so much, that I'll be using as guides. But this is just our start. There's a lot of things I'm sure we will be learning. This is because this is the first time the county has taken over such a big project. But I'll certainly be, looking at Pazit and have looked at Pazit for guidance. And you've been amazing and connecting me with different partners. So this is, again, just the starting. Hopefully at our next meeting, whenever that is, 6 months from now, I could probably provide more information and update on where we are with those organizations and what we've accomplished. But this is where we are right now. We are utilizing ARPA funds, the American Rescue Plan Act fund, which is going to run out in September. So we're using, so we had some leftover money that we are utilizing for these villages. So hopefully making the most out of from those funds that we have left. And if you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. My information is on the screen, and I can also put my information in the chat.
Okay, and in just a minute, I will. There we go. And I will. No, that's not what I wanted. I didn't want Pazit anymore. I'm done with Pazit. Hold on. All right, our next speakers, as soon as I get to their slides, are, there we go. That's what I wanted. Are Mary Jane Atwater and Carol Paquette. Oh, now hold on. I have to escape so I can go back in and share. Oh my. All right. Now we'll get ready. Okay, are we set?
I think we're all set. Thank you, Mary Jo.
There we go. Thank you very much.
So we're going to focus on AAA collaborations with villages. And could we have the next slide, please? AAAs and villages are really natural partners. We share the same goals of providing information and services to help older adults maintain their independence and age in place. We share the same target population in that we serve older adults. Obviously, AAAs have a much broader population base that they work with, but we do overlap with the older adults. We have the other comment I wanted to make there is that one difference in the target population is AAAs service those with the greatest economic and social need, and villages are open to anyone who wants to be a member. We have complementary services and programs, transportation, home repairs, meals, and some other programs that both AAAs and villages do. But villages also provide a lot of socialization, friendly visits, tech support, and programs that complement and supplement what AAAs offer. Also experienced collaborators. We've all been talking today about partnerships and collaborations. Villages obviously do a lot of that, and so do AAAs. And in fact, villages and AAAs partner with many of the same organizations in their localities. Next slide. So what Mary Jane and I are going to talk to you about is some findings from a research project that was funded by Next 50 Foundation for the Village to Village Network. So just very quickly, just give you an idea of the scope of the project. We had large and small villages and AAAs Many different business models, both for AAAs and for villages, urban, suburban, and rural locations, and a great variety in the types of collaborations and how they got started. And lots of good ideas that to replicate, and that many that match up with the Maryland RFPs that have been coming out. Next slide. So we want to just quickly touch on some high points. These are benefits that AAAs expressed from working with villages. I won't read these slides to you, but basically AAAs say, you know, villages really help them expand their capacity in a lot of different ways, their capacity to provide services and resources. They also help AAAs extend their reach, often to get to hard to reach communities. As Aram noted, there are some communities with cultural preferences that do not like to engage with government programs and are much more amenable to the peer-to-peer approach of villages. Villages, of course, are serving the middle income older adults that often cannot be served by AAAs due to resource constraints. Next slide. Some additional comments about benefits is enhancing the effectiveness of the AAA. Many villages actually contract with AAAs to meet their high demand service needs. Transportation, for example, which, you know, it's the biggest service they need to provide. Villages, by being on the ground and working closely with their memberships, can actually delay the need for long-term care or for moving out of the home. Villages are also a good source for special projects. And as I think Bazit mentioned, the villages are very nimble and evolving and come up with a lot of good ideas and are able to put them into place relatively quickly. And then villages also help to improve the outcomes for older adults. We all know the value, and we've been talking about it, of the peer-to-peer connections that the village provides, and the fact that villages are trusted sources. I mean, that certainly was a point strongly made during COVID. Villages do the practical help with everyday tasks and help to manage aging issues. So we'll have the next slide, please. I apologize for going so quickly, but I know we're running out of time, and a lot of the points on these slides have already been made by others in their presentations, dealing with other types of organizations. So they're equally true for AAAs as for, you know, municipalities and counties and the other organizations we've been talking about. So we categorize the collaborations that we found into these 4 different types. You know, as we've been talking about this morning, we have many examples of AAAs that have actually started villages, some with funding, very often with advice and resource sharing and helping with planning. So there's been a lot of activity by AAAs around the country in helping villages get started. On the flip side, in terms of how villages expand provide support, I'm getting tongue-tied, I'm trying to talk too fast, capacity building, they can provide, it helps the AAA to have access to expanded programs and educational events. Again, to reach larger groups of people. Program support that villages have supplied to AAAs is kind of a two-way street in many cases, with cross referrals, cross promotion of each other's programs and services, sharing resources and in-kind support, co-hosting events. And finally, in planning and coordination, villages and AAAs serve on each other's boards and commissions, and they participate in larger planning issues, strategic plans, such as was referenced by an earlier presenter, where many community organizations, including villages, play a role. And to come a little specifically to Maryland, I think we saw, many villages in Maryland during COVID that supplemented and complemented the AAAs by all the work of providing transportation, helping to make appointments, shopping and delivering groceries and prescriptions and other kinds of errands, and distributed personal protective equipment. And I think probably every village in Maryland was doing some of those things during COVID. And then in our study, we had a specific case of the Golden Age Village in the Baltimore County Department of Aging, which Aram was, of course, associated with. And in this instance, the Islamic Society of Baltimore reached out to BCDA because they were interested in having congregate meals that were consistent with their dietary practices. So BCDA helped them launch a congregate meal program for which the Islamic Society was reimbursed, and also provides nutrition training. Now, through this experience, the group of the Islamic Society, the people participating said, we really like these congregate meals, but we want more. We want to have more opportunities to get together and to support each other and to have activities. So actually, the village sort of grew out of the congregate meal program. And this collaboration continues today. The meal program, of course, continues. And BCDA has also provided funding and support for installing an access ramp, running a memory cafe, a community garden, and Tai Chi class. So it has been a very long-running collaboration there. And I'm now going to turn it over to Mary Jane Atwater to give some wrap-up takeaways from this research that we did.
Right. Okay, so these were some kind of how-to takeaways from the research, but we think that they certainly apply to any collaboration that, it doesn't just have to be a village AAA, could be a county, could be nonprofit. So, of course, whenever you enter a collaboration, it's important to define for yourself sort of what goals you want to achieve. And so that's really the first thing you want to do. Perhaps you want to reach underrepresented population, or maybe provide transportation in an area where those resources are scarce. And that's, in fact, our collaboration in our village came about as a result of exactly that. There were few transportation resources in our area, so early on we formed a very successful collaboration with our AAA. But you want to, of course, identify where the villages are, and the WAVE has a wonderful resource. The 29 villages in Maryland are listed there with their websites, so it's easy to go into those websites, take a look at what the priorities are for those villages, what kind of programs they offer, read their annual reports, read their strategic plans, and take a look at where the village can be a resource for you and provide value, build capacity, the kinds of things Carol was talking about. Okay, so let's go to the next. And as we all know, engaging and building the collaboration is important. It's more than a business transaction. It's really a relationship. And I think you need to keep that in mind all the time. And so for a AAA or a county government, for a nonprofit, meeting with the village leadership is one way to get going on that. We saw examples of where AAA staff served on county boards and advisory committees for the village. So explore all the ways that you can collaborate, cross referrals, or maybe co-programs, that kind of thing. You want to cultivate that relationship. You've kind of got this goal in mind, but somebody said early on, things change. And so you need to adapt and innovate and cultivate as time goes on. So it's incremental with those cross referrals and the kinds of things that you do. Okay, let's keep going there. And these points here, again, are, I think, applicable for any successful collaboration. Communication is really a core value, that communication between the two parties be clear, frequent, and if issues arise, address them at once. I think you all know that.
Communication can also be sharing information to one another, strategic plans or an annual report. And in terms of the partnership, you want to make sure that each side of or each party is realizing a benefit. So look for process improvements as you go along. Don't be hesitant to change, to make changes that will improve things. In terms of results, it's important to realize that both the village and its partner, its collaborator, you both want to achieve your results. Villages are really wonderful, as we've talked about today, in reaching deep into the community. And so those results can come about through those kind of collaborations, the kind of trusted neighborhood connections that people have talked about. Data and evaluations. I think villages increasingly are data focused, and want to showcase the benefits of their services. And so also the AAA, the other party to the collaboration, is probably also data focused. So make sure that from the beginning you establish how you're going to track things, how you're going to manage the data that comes about. And innovation, again, because villages can be nimble and adapt. It's a great way. You build that relationship, and as it changes, you adapt. Okay, let's go to the last slide. And as we talk about villages and their collaborators, we have to keep in front of us that yes, we benefit. The village does, the AAA, the county government, the nonprofit. But really the benefits are for older adults, and the benefit, more confidence to stay at home with the kind of little bit of support that's provided, the enhanced interaction, community engagement, social isolation, alleviating it. We know how important that is. And increasing availability of services and supports when needed. And then, of course, reaching underserved populations. Villages are increasingly doing that, and we know our partners are as well. So that's it for us, Mary Jo. Except for we did have a last slide with our, actually we had, if you can go to the last slide, there we go. This publication here, Leveraging Resources, is a handbook that we developed as part of our research. And there's a QR code there, which you can scan with your phone, even on the screen, and it'll take you right to it. We can also put the link in the chat. But the handbook is a great resource, talks about the examples that Carol spoke about in the beginning. So.
That QR code, just to point out, is disabled for some reason. So if you could.
It didn't. Oh, okay. So let me, I'll put it in the chat, okay?
Thank you so much.
Sure.
We had originally planned for this to be 90 minutes, thinking there would be a lot of content to cover. And then in consultation with some key stakeholders, we thought, well, no, most of the audience, they're going to be working professionals, and they're only going to want, 1 hour. So in some ways, I apologize for running over, but in other ways, I don't, because I think that this has all been very, very useful. And I do want to tell you that all of the materials are going to be posted on our website. If you give me a minute, okay, where did it go? Okay, let me get down to the, there we go. Now share my screen. Am I still sharing or not? Shoot. Well, anyway, our website is wavevillages.org, and then you should go to WAVE programs. And under that, you'll see Archive of WAVE events. It'll probably take a few days for us to pull all this together, but they'll be there, and that should have access to the contact information for our speakers. I guess I would ask, is there any, can we stay on for just a minute if anyone has a burning question that they would like to raise? I think you're all just eager to get off. Well, anyway, again, thank you so much. Next time we'll plan it for 90 minutes, or maybe we'll plan for an hour and cut it back to 90. But I appreciate the participation of our speakers and of our audience. Again, it was a diverse audience from the western part of Maryland to the eastern shore of Maryland. And I think that bodes well for the expansion of villages. So thank you very much.
Thank you.